Hey everybody, shalom lakulam. I'd like to welcome you back to the Newbie, Shnoobie Hebrew alphabet program. We left off at lesson 2. We made it as far as the 5th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Hey. So today we're going to be looking at the letters Vav, Zayin, Chet, and Tet. So up to this point, if you have followed the lessons and you have done the homework assignments, you should have been able to download by clicking on the student homework link tablature sheets. Each one has either 2 or 3 letters, consonants, Hebrew consonants on them, and you should have taken the time to fill those sheets out completely and also followed along with the reading exercises. I believe there's a download link for some of the reading parts as well. And so if you have not yet done your homework, I will respectfully ask you to not continue and to take half a step back and make sure you finish the things that were already handed out for assignments. And then once you've completed those, we would love to have you join us for this next lesson, lesson 3. Okay, so the letter Vav, as you're looking at here, is the 6th consonant out of 22 consonants. And it almost looks like just a straight line. It's got a little bit of a curvature to it. This is a letter that we had discussed. It really wears 2 hats. It can behave in some settings as if it were only a consonant. In other settings, it will wear the other hat and behave like a vowel. And so when it behaves like a vowel, you will see a little dot on top, or it may have a dot down here in the belly, but it will not have both in most cases. The vowels, the one with the dot on the top is called cholam vav. It says O. And then the second vowel, it has a dot in the middle of negation, the belly. It would be pronounced U. And that is a U class vowel. As the placard reads, Vav is pronounced like the V as in vow, or the word van in English. When appended onto the front of a noun, it serves as a connector. It's called the conjunction, and it means and. Hebrew language, looking at dealing with the Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, the word and is all over the place. And so many of the sentences are run-on sentences in that they are connected by the word and. So instead of like in the English language where you have a sentence that comes to an end and there's a period, many of the verses in the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, read like a run-on sentence or a run-on storyline that doesn't seem to pause. And so we should get used to seeing a vav prefixed onto words when we're reading our Hebrew Bible. That will be commonplace and we should be expecting it. In this expanded placard, we have the tracing emblem down here in the lower left. So vav, I'll mention some Hebrew teachers, or some Hebrew grammars rather, you'll see the Romanized letters for Vav. Romanized meaning oftentimes textbooks will show you what are the English equivalents of Hebrew letters. And you may see it spelled W-A-W, wow. And there are very few Jewish people. There's like one sect of Judaism in a minority that still pronounces the Vav as a W. And so the way that I'm going to be teaching you is the way that I was taught. I was not taught to use it as a W, but to use it or to pronounce it with a V. And in that case, modern Israelis will understand you. Most classes of Jewish people around the world, people that know the Torah and the Tanakh and the Hebrew Bible, that would be the way that most Jewish people are used to hearing it pronounced. So it's a one-step approach to tracing this letter and writing it for yourself on your tablature sheets. So we just start here and draw a straight line down here. So here we have a picture of a rose. Rose in the Hebrew language, you would say vered. Vered is a Hebrew word for rose. Vered is a segalet, meaning it has 2 segols that form the basis of it. Also, segalets are enunciated or stressed on the first syllable as opposed to the last syllable. So you pronounce that vered. And next letter is Zayin. Zayin is the 7th of 22 consonants. So Zayin is a lot of these letters, you'll notice they're fairly basic. They're not complicated. That's actually good for us, for those that are learning Hebrew and are just beginning at the beginning with the Aleph Bet. You want easy. Easy is good, as opposed to really elaborate. Think of the Chinese language, where many of their symbols and letters that represent things are more pictures, and it is much more difficult to memorize those and to duplicate those. So Hebrew is fairly easy. This letter Zayin is pronounced like the Z, as in zebra, and in fact that is a Hebrew word. Zebra is a Hebrew word for zebra. So there are a certain number of letters and the pronunciation of them, and even some words that have directly come over from English into Hebrew, and they sound almost the same. Okay, Zayin's pretty easy to trace and to write for yourself. Two-step process. Step 1, be a diagonal stroke. And then step 2 would be one straight to the baseline. Here we have a picture of a Hebrew word that begins with the letter Zayin, just to help in terms of memory devices. So what are you looking at? This is a picture of nuggets of gold, right? Zahav. Zahav is the Hebrew word for gold, or at least one of them. Okay, moving on to the 8th of 22 letters. You're looking at the letter Chet. Chet looks remarkably similar to another letter that I've already introduced you to earlier on in another lesson, and that letter was the 5th letter of the alphabet, called He. And the only difference between Chet and He has a little area right in here where it's white. And so you've got the black part, and then the black part here, and a little space, like a little opening in the letter. And so that is how you can tell the difference between Chet and He. I do understand there are a certain number of consonants in Hebrew that they have lookalikes. And so we'll come to examine those lookalikes and talk about those a little bit. And I will help you to differentiate and not get confused between the letters. But there's a lot of new students, especially, that they do get certain letters confused. And that's understandable. So as we see down here, Het is pronounced like the CH in Bach. It is a guttural, pronounced as if you were clearing your throat. So, Het. Would you try saying that? Het, from the back of the throat. Het. New students to Biblical Hebrew, they have a tendency to overcompensate and to go a little bit crazy on the sound and almost giving it too much. And I think that's normal because it's a new sound. You want to make sure you're getting it right. In the course of time, you'll figure things out that, and for many words, it's just a slight guttural sound, and it's not long, it's not dragged out, and it becomes more common for you once you have been studying Hebrew for a while. It'll take some time, though. If this is a new sound for you, it'll definitely take some time for you to get it. Okay, next slide. Moving on to the last letter we're going to cover in today's micro lesson. Here we have the fuller placard giving us a little bit more information about the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Chet. Down in the lower left, we have our tracing block. There's a 2-step method for tracing the Chet and writing it on your own. And forgive me, I am using a traditional mouse and mouse pad, so my hand is a little bit shaky and this may not come out perfect, but the first step is a horizontal line across the top and then straight down to the baseline. Step 2 would be from the top vertical line we've just drawn straight down to the baseline. And there you have your Chet. Get a picture here in the upper right of the new moon. So the new moon, in Hebrew, you would say Rosh Chodesh. Rosh meaning head, and then Chodesh meaning new or meaning moon. So Chodesh, new moon. Rosh Chodesh literally means head of the month, or the first day of the Hebrew month. And that would be the day where there's a little tiny sliver of the moon in the sky. and the moon would get larger until it is a full moon in the exact middle point of the Hebrew month. And there are certain Hebrew holidays that occur in the middle. I think about Pesach, Passover, Nisan 14, and you have in the fall Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles begins in the middle of the month on the 14th day of Tishrei. So if you want to memorize the Hebrew word and be able to read it for the word for month or for moon, those are the same words, which is rather instructive for us that Hashem would have chosen the same word to represent month and moon. It seems like he wanted to communicate something, that he wanted the calendar to be based upon the movements of the moon. And that's exactly what we see in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. He created these lights in the heavenlies that they would serve for signs, seasons, and years. And the word used for seasons is moed, moedim. And that is the word used for festivals. Israel's festivals, celebratory festivals given in the Torah in Leviticus chapter 23. Given in the Torah in Leviticus chapter 23. Okay, let's move on to our last letter of the lesson today, which should be the letter Tet. So Tet rhymes with the previous letter we just learned, Chet. So we have Chet and Tet. Tet is the 9th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Tet is pronounced like the T as in tent. Tet represents the number 9 in the Hebrew language. I want to remind you all that every one of these letters in the alphabet really represents a number in the Hebrew language. And so whenever you see a tet in the Hebrew Bible beside a verse, it means 9. It can also be combined with other consonants. You wanted to make the number 19, it would be Yod, which equals 10. So that's the next letter we're going to get to in the next couple lessons from now. So Yod equals 10, and then Tet is 9. And so Yod Tet would be 19. That's how the numbering system works in the Hebrew language. Okay, so down to the tracing. Okay, looking down to the tracing template, lower left. I never know what to call this thing. Is it a placard? Is it a tracing picture? I've used about, 4 or 5 synonyms, I think, just in this class alone. So it's a template. It's a tracing template. So it looks like a 2-step, no, a 1-step method. Could that really be? How could it be a 1-step method? Looks like they want us to start here and go up, down, over, and up, and that is a tet. And so I think the idea is you don't want to move your pencil or pen. There's not a need to remove it from the paper and start in a different place. And I think that's why the numbering system is as is shown here. And that's only a 1-step letter. I would have thought it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 if I was doing it, but they're calling this a 1-stepper. Get a picture here of a basket. And so a woven basket in Hebrew, and I'm sure there's probably quite a few different synonyms because that was a basket weaving culture, the culture of ancient Israel in the Middle East, and still that way today. Lots of people, their livelihood is making baskets. So can you say the word teneh? Teneh. Teneh is a basket. That is the Hebrew word for basket. Right, so that concludes our micro lesson for today. It was a really short one. I decided to reserve our reading practice for the next lesson just so that I don't overload you, because you have a lot of homework. So I want to encourage you to click on that download link and to print out your tablet document. It's a PDF file, and you're going to be practicing some letters. So let's say our letters together right now that we've learned up until this point. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. And this lesson today is Vav, Zayin, Chet, and Tet. So I wish you the best and have some fun. practicing writing out these letters. You should feel good because you're starting to make some progress. And at this point, once you've done your homework assignment, you'll be able to say you have 9 letters behind you that you've already learned. And we're going to be using these letters with the basic reading assignment coming up in the next lesson. So I'm going to put a cap on it for now, and we will see you on the other side for some basic Hebrew reading. Shalom, shalom.